Okay, let's get right into it. When you look at the news, you see destroyers, tankers, a whole lot of drama off the coast of Venezuela. But what if I told you the real story? The one that's actually driving this whole thing isn't about geopolitics. What if it's really about chemistry? We're going to go way beyond the headlines to uncover the hidden industrial reality behind this global standoff.
This quote, it just nails it, right? It forces you to completely shift your perspective. So for a minute, let's forget the political theater. The real action, and frankly the real opportunity, is happening at a molecular level. And it's about to totally reshape a huge corner of the energy market.
All right, so first, let's cover the basics. The story everyone thinks they know. You've seen the headlines, I'm sure. It's got all the drama of a classic international showdown, complete with warships playing a high-stakes game of cat and mouse on the ocean.
And things are getting intense. I mean, the U.S. has gone all in, declaring a total and complete blockade. This is leading to these wild pursuits on the open water, like the one with the tanker Bella 1. Other ships like the Sentries and the Skipper, they've been straight up intercepted. And get this, the Skipper is now sitting in Galveston under armed guard, and its cargo, 1.8 million barrels of crude oil, is now the property of the U.S. Treasury. This is what a maximum pressure campaign looks like in the real world.
Okay, but that's the surface level stuff. That's where most of the reporting just stops. The real reason for all this, the true driver, has less to do with politics and a lot more to do with a kind of, well, a secret addiction, hidden deep inside America's own energy system.
And this is where things get a little weird, right? Because we're constantly told that the U.S. is energy independent. The shale revolution, we hear, made America the biggest oil producer on the planet. So if all that's true, then why on earth does any of this matter? Why care about Venezuelan oil at all?
Well, the answer isn't about how much oil, but about what kind of oil. You see, the U.S. fracking boom produces a ton of what's called light sweet crude. It's great for making gasoline. But here's the billion-dollar problem. America's massive, incredibly complex refineries on the Gulf Coast, they weren't built for that stuff. They were engineered decades ago to process the exact opposite, heavy, sour crude. That's the thick, sludgy, high-sulfur oil that you need to make the really valuable products like diesel and jet fuel.
And this chart, wow, this really puts the scale of that dependency into perspective. Look at that, 70%. A full 70% of the oil that those huge Gulf Coast refineries run on is imported heavy crude. They literally can't just switch over to the lighter stuff from Texas. It's not what the machinery is designed for. It would absolutely crush their entire business model.
So here's the bottom line. Despite being the world's #1 oil producer, the U.S. has this giant structural mismatch. Its own oil fields are pumping out a flood of something its most valuable refineries don't really want, while those same refineries are desperately starving for the one type of crude it can't produce enough of. And guess who just happens to be sitting on some of the largest reserves of that heavy crude in the world? Venezuela. Okay, so now that we get this vulnerability, this Achilles heel really, we can see how it's being used as a weapon. Because this blockade isn't just about stopping ships, it's a precision strike, using oil chemistry as the warhead aimed right at the heart of the Maduro regime's power structure. And for the target, Nicolas Maduro, the stakes couldn't possibly be higher. We are way beyond simple sanctions here. We're talking about a $50 million bounty on his head. His entire regime has been officially labeled a foreign terrorist organization by the U.S. I mean, for him, this is a fight for his very survival. And here's the playbook. It's actually pretty simple when you break it down. See, Maduro stays in power because he keeps his top military brass, the so-called cartel of the Suns, happy. But he doesn't pay them with cash. He pays them with oil, giving them control over these illicit shadow exports. So, step 1, the generals get paid in oil. Step 2, the blockade, codenamed Operation Southern Spear, cuts off that oil flow. And now for the crucial part, step 3, the money's gone. The oil isn't moving, and suddenly that $50 million bounty starts looking really good to a general who isn't getting paid anymore. And don't think for a second there's an easy, negotiated way out of this. The time for talking seems to be over. Maduro actually tried to offer a deal not long ago, dangling preferential contracts for U.S. companies. And you know what Washington's response was? Not a phone call. They sent a B-52 bomber to do a flyby right off the coast of Caracas. The message couldn't be clearer. This is a total embargo.
Now, this squeeze on Caracas isn't happening in a vacuum. It has huge ripple effects around the world, especially for China. As you can see here, China has been the main customer for this shadow oil, buying up something like 600,000 barrels every single day. So when the U.S. Navy starts grabbing tankers on their way to Asia, it's a direct challenge to Beijing's energy security right in its own backyard. So let's recap. You've got this massive geopolitical crisis sitting right on top of a very specific fundamental chemical problem. And in any market, whenever you have that kind of chaos and inefficiency, well, that's where you find opportunity. Let's talk about the specific arbitrage this whole situation creates.
Okay, so this is the heart of the thesis. The blockade stops the illegal tankers from leaving. That means all that crude oil starts backing up inside Venezuela's borders. They are literally hitting a storage wall. They are running out of tanks to put the stuff in. And what does that do? It creates the world's best buyer's market, but only for the very, very few players who are legally allowed to touch that oil.
And this table lays out three pretty distinct ways you could think about this opportunity. First, you've got the complexity kings, companies like Valero and PBF Energy. Their entire business model is built to turn cheap, heavy, complex crude into gold. Getting access to this distressed Venezuelan oil at a massive discount, I mean, that's a dream come true for their profit margins. Second, there's the geopolitical hedge, Chevron. They're the only big U.S. company that still has a specific license to operate there. So if the regime topples, they're basically first in line. And finally, you got to think long-term, the reconstruction play. Venezuela's oil fields are an absolute wreck. It's going to take a kind of Marshall Plan to fix them, and a giant like SLB is one of the only companies on Earth with the tech and the history in the country to pull that off.
So let's bring this all together. If there's just one thing you take away from all this, it should be this. The physical properties of a commodity, the chemistry, often matter way more than the political headlines swirling around it.
I love this quote. It says everything. The chemistry of the barrel dictates the destiny of the stock. Look, you can spend your time following the destroyers and the political drama, or you can follow the API gravity of the oil and the refinery yields. At the end of the day, it's the actual chemistry that's shaping the financial outcomes here.
And if you want to boil the entire arbitrage down to a single concept, this is it. The whole thing is just a giant imbalance. The U.S. market is long, light, sweet crude. It's got way too much of the stuff its best refineries don't really need. And at the exact same time, it is critically short, heavy, sour crude, a deep scarcity of the one thing those incredible assets require to run properly. The blockade is a tool designed to exploit that exact imbalance.
And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. We see the admirals on their ships and the politicians at their podiums making big moves. But way back, decades ago, a bunch of chemical engineers designed some refineries. And in doing so, they created this fundamental need, this chemical dependency that is now driving geopolitics in 2025. So it really makes you wonder, who's actually pulling the strings, the admirals or the engineers?